Oh no, Butless, according to Bill Ishen in there. So Bill Ishen expressed his sadness, yeah, on social media yesterday. Now we also have an Arsenal fan from Sporty TV. Yep, he's in the person of Kelvin Owusu Ansah. We have him on the line here to also speak to him and know what he's going through. Charlie, I'm thinking about Arsenal people's mental health too. Kelvin, if you can hear us, good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon.
In fact, I hope sincerely, I hope you are doing well.
Yeah, I'm very fine.
How sure am I that you are very fine?
How sure are you?
Yes, that you are very fine.
How sure are you?
Yes.
You should be answering that yourself because you're asking how sure you are.
Anyway, thank you very much for having some time with us. Quickly, we want to talk about Arsenal. So take us briefly about the game. How you took your results yesterday. I'm sure you watched the game yesterday.
Yeah, I've watched it. For Arsenal's results, nothing surprised me again because I checked out in late December, early January. Based on how certain results went and how the team started playing, I just checked out because I knew it would get to a point that the team was going to struggle to get results. So nothing was, surprising. If Arsenal wins, it's not a surprise because they have the Arsenal, so they have the players, they have the capability to hurt any team in the world. And if they lose games, yes, there were possibilities from, how the team had been shaping up and, the results that, started coming in late December and then early January.
So can I say that one is from an analytical point of view? Based the fact that you've been an analyst, you knew that per these metrics things will not go on well. But from a fan angle and a fan perspective, did you still have hope and believe that Arsenal could win the Premier League?
No, like I said, I checked out as a fan. If it was an analyst, then you open up to chances that yes, football games will tend to change and all that. You get it. So I from an analytical point of view, I know that yes, Arsenal can win the league. It's also heavily dependent on what Manchester City would offer them, would offer as push factors to make Arsenal win by their performances.
Mm.
So, when I realized Arsenal were just piss poor, and knowing Guardiola, I just sensed it from previous years. When it gets to the new year, he actually plays better. He gets better results. So that was where I was basing my analysis. And for the fun part, you check out so that you don't have any shockers or whatever that may come up. But you know, judging from what I saw from both Arsenal and Manchester City, knowing the genius that Guardiola is, and then getting two important players to fix his worries. It was always going to be difficult for Arsenal to win unless Arteta changed what he was going through or what he was given the fans and then his Arsenal team in the last couple of months. Yeah.
Sure. Um, I'm sure you've spoken to some few Arsenal fans like yourself, and how are they taking it?
Well, I barely do speak to fans, but obviously there are some pages that we on. Some rant, some still have belief, some think that it's now cities to lose. Some also think that it's a game of football. 5 more matches to end the season. Anything at all could happen. So it's just mixed feelings. But overall, lots of them are shocked because they thought this was going to be the year, judging from how the team played and the points gap. They never expected this. They are only reviewing the chances that Arsenal let slip. When they had opportunity to beat teams like Wolves, to beat or get a point against Manchester United, and then the last game against AFC Bournemouth. Yeah, so they feel that yes, this is a season that could have easily been Arsenal, but they've let go. Lots of them are disappointed, and then I just hoping that Arsenal will keep the momentum high and win the remaining 5 games to win the Premier League, which is doable looking at the teams that Arsenal has to play.
Right. Um, considering you said you saw it from late December coming down, but let's talk about Arsenal. What can Arsenal do to win the Premier League?
The only way they can do is just to be a bit proactive and not reactive to the way they play, and then start, you know, winning games. They need to bring all their creative elements, to bear, and then their finishing instincts. If you are not ruthless enough as a team, you barely win any games. And even with yesterday, the number of chances that they created, they were not ruthless enough. And I think that that has always been Arsenal's difficulty. And maybe Ateta really has to rethink. His team is so defensive. His team is so defensive minded, and barely do they, open up to create chances. They play lateral and then not central. Instead of going through the middle, they decide to go sideways, and it's affecting a number of the players, especially the creative ones. I've had my own issues with Martins Zubimendi not being creative enough. He seems to have lost confidence, but they always say you are what you repeatedly do. And because the team has been so defensive minded, trying to contain with the fear of losing possession, most of the players who should be the creative forces are very much defensive, extremely defensive minded. They try to contain, and then they don't take risks. And I think that that should change with, Mikel Arteta. Allow the most, proactive players to play, the likes of Max Doman, the likes of Eze. It's not bad putting Eze, Martin Odegaard, Max Doman in a single game, all because you want control and a lot more of the ball with creativity. And that should be what Arsenal and Arteta should be looking at going forward. Other than that, I don't see how they are going to survive with their wing player, especially when Bukayo Saka has had a terrible season and will be very much unavailable maybe in the next 2, 3 games. And you cannot even trust if he would stay fit enough, because he is also thinking about playing at the World Cup, which is
Yeah.
every or most players' dream. So he may not come in with full force to come and be, battle ready like before. So I think that yes, it all starts and stops with Mikel Arteta, and it's not beyond Arsenal. Arsenal has played that way before. 2022-2023 season, we were very exciting, attacking football. It was all goals being created, lots of um, sequences of play that excited and gave promise. But with this style of play, it hasn't given any promise, and then hopefully they will be able to just quickly resolve that particular part of or aspect of their game. And if they do, they have, within their might to get all things, better than previously. So I just think that it's all about the manager. Yeah, the manager needs to quickly, resolve these issues that he has with the team.
Yeah, sure. And speaking of the manager, are you an Arteta believer, or you think that it has gotten to a point where he should go for a different manager to take over?
Well, I think that he is done. Many say I don't like him. It's not that I don't like him. I appreciate where he's brought us now. Arsenal were in the doldrums. He's managed to pick them up, giving them new belief. Fans now have the belief that if Arsenal is playing, they can actually play better. They can now battle top teams. They are now a top two side instead of, the top four team, or trying to fight for a top four every season. Now, Arsenal is in the top two almost every season. But there are instances where coaches or managers get to a point that you need someone to get over the line. When Manchester City wanted to win the Premier League, Mark Hughes struggled and struggled. They had to go and bring Pellegrini. Came to win, where it got difficult for him and other coaches. They just had to let him go, and then they brought, Pep Guardiola, because they wanted a step higher. That was winning the UEFA Champions League. And lo and behold, they came to do it, and he just made things work. When Real Madrid was struggling to win the Champions League, they sacked in managers and all that, brought in Jose Mourinho, who took them to another level. When Mourinho tried 1 or 2 times, it wasn't working. They just had to get him away, get in a tried and tested manager. Jupp Heynckes came on, just break that longevity of not winning the Champions League for them, and he managed to win. So it's more like it. When things get difficult, you need to quickly move a step higher. Arteta has done his bit, but I think it behoves on the Arsenal hierarchy to get to know that, yes, we needed someone to at least pull us up. Now that we are up to maybe the middle of the ladder, we need someone who can push us up high to the very top and put us on the pedestal. So I think that he's done his bits, and then, something quickly needs to change. And if he goes and a new manager comes in, you would have a different voice in the dressing room, different orientation, different mentality, and who knows, things could just change. Nobody thought PSG was not going to win with Messi and then Neymar, Mbappe, but when they realized, come on, things were not working for the coaches, the managers, Unai Emery, Carlo Ancelotti, they just made sure that they got rid of them. They brought in someone who had won the Champions League before, Luis Enrique, and then in a matter of 2, 3 seasons, he's managed to make them one of the fiercest sides in Europe. So if you're a big side, you should be ready to get rid of managers. Someone will talk about, time being given to as a Wenger Ferguson. As a Wenger won in his first 3 seasons. You get it. He won in his first 3 seasons. He broke the dominance of Sir Alex Ferguson. It's only Sir Alex Ferguson who went a little close to 7 years before winning the title. So if Arteta stays in there and then things are getting difficult, he seems not to be getting the team over the line. You just need to make changes. And there are certain decisions that he's making, and actually does not give, someone like me promise. If you say your problem is attack, and for last season, and you bring in a striker in Victor Gyökeres, and you are playing a season, and there are times you need goals and your player is on the bench, and you bring him on only in the 64th minute when he's actually the top goal scorer of the team. It doesn't make sense. And that is why I always say Jose Mourinho would always be top there. Didier Drogba wasn't. People say Drogba, yes, Drogba was but he wasn't one of the prolific scorers when it comes to, the Premier League, you know. But you get it that Drogba will step up in the big games for you. He will be there. There was no way he would stay on the bench for another striker to start the game. He was always starting for Jose Mourinho because you need that presence. You need his presence. And it is goals that only boost the confidence of players. And for me, Arteta never changed his style to suit the player he brought in Victor Gyökeres. He was still playing lateral to satisfy, players like Bukayo Saka, Martin Odegaard, Leandro Trossard, and the likes. He never made good use of the materials that he got. Eze is very much central, very much direct. Victor Gyökeres wants to play in between the lines, very much direct. Feed him with the ball, he runs onto it, and then he tries to finish. So all those things are elements of Arteta's game and then decision making that I think that it's time that he takes the lead. This is football. You can go and come back. Carlo Ancelotti left Real Madrid. He came back. Juve Heynckes left. He came back. Even Juve Heynckes at Bayern, he left. He still came back to coach them. So who knows? You can always make a return when you leave. So I think maybe I don't know whether the Kroenkes, especially Josh, is very much happy with what he's seen, and they will allow Arteta to continue because they nearly gave him a contract extension in January, but he declined and said he wants to finish the season. I don't know what he himself, Arteta, is thinking, but I'm sure if he fails to win the trophy this season, he might be thinking, "Come on, I should just leave it here. I've done my part, and then maybe go and come back again in the future."
All right. And at this point, who will you suggest if Arteta is going?
Enrique is done with PSG.
Okay.
Even before Arteta, I was thinking Arsenal should just get Enrique to come on board. I decided to stick with Arteta. After signing Unai Emery, stuck with Arteta. He's one manager I think that yes, he could fit in properly for Arsenal and then get Arsenal to you know fight for fight for trophies. His mentality is great, and he's someone who works with players, that have lots of technical ability. Unlike Arteta, I think Arteta prefers, the mechanical players. The reason why he would prefer someone like Leandro Trossard, Gabriel Martinelli, to playing Ethan Wanyeri or playing Max Doman in a game where he needs to open up. So I think that for me, my absolute choice, get Enrique, give him the project like PSG did, give him massive control, and it could be changing things for Arsenal.
For Arsenal. Right. And it's also interesting that it's not over. What if Arsenal wins the Premier League? Are you still going to
Even if
sack him?
I've maintained the position that
Okay.
even if Arsenal wins, yes, Arteta has done his best. Great for him, great for his record, great for Arsenal. But you leave. The fact that you win doesn't mean you shouldn't go. Tottenham was first had, Ange Postecoglou struggling. He won the trophy, but he had to leave. You get it. Real Madrid won the Champions League. The center of the boss had to be sacked because they were not going in the direction that Madrid wanted. Someone would say, fine, as much as he might have won the Champions League, what if he hadn't won? That means they wouldn't have had any. So they looked at the future. So you look at the future, even if you're Arteta, you win, and then you just say, come on, I want to bow out, and then maybe later I can come back and then resolve things. Yeah.
All right. I want to take this one. Considering now these times, right, and then those times when you were 8, 7, 6, bottling 18 and around 12 and all of that, which one will you consider as the most tough times in supporting Arsenal?
Oh well, I think that it's now. It's better. It's not difficult when you are languishing 6, 7, 8. You get it, because you may not have any hopes. But when you are close, when you are ultimately close to the title, close to winning or achieving, and then you lose it, it breaks virtually everything that you have. It's like having hope that, yes, this is your last meal of the day, and then as soon as you wash your hands, whether fortunately or unfortunately, someone knocks it down, and then now you've lost your food.
Yeah.
That's how bad it is. But when you know that you have no hopes of eating in the evening, there's nothing for you to worry about.
Mm-hmm.
You get it.
Yeah.
If it comes, if you get food, that is a bonus. If you don't get it, there's no worries for you. So I think that's how maybe I'll put it. Yeah.
So we can put you on record that it's tougher supporting Arsenal with Arteta than before Arsenal without Arteta.
He said it's better supporting us now with
It's
Arteta.
tougher.
He said it's
tougher supporting Arsenal with Arteta than before.
It's tougher supporting Arteta.
Arsenal with Arteta compared to Arsenal without Arteta.
No, I never said that. You asked about positioning.
Yes, and before Arteta came in, that was your positions, right?
Yes, with United.
Yes.
But that lasted for how many seasons? It lasted for just a little over a season. So it's not like Arsenal were regularly off. Arsenal were always in the top 4 under Wenger.
But after Wenger left, those few seasons.
After Wenger, and then Arteta came in, tried the first season, it didn't work, and then subsequently he managed to get the right result and brought Arsenal back into the top 4, and specifically the top 2 in the last couple of seasons. So it's virtually winning, getting close to something, gets your hopes high. It's not that it's tougher supporting this than I don't see it as tougher supporting Arsenal this time than previously. You get it? The only thing is you only have to, be measured. That's it.
All right, thank you. Jeff has one question for you.
Good afternoon, Kelvin. This is Jeff from the studios. Okay, so for the past 3 or 4 years, Arsenal have always started the season on a good note, but when it gets to the latter part of the season, it looks like everything goes sideways. What do you really think the issue is for Arsenal or for Mikel Arteta? Because in this season alone, they had 11 points lead ahead of Manchester City, and but as at now, it has a tendency to become level on points. What do you really think the issue is? Is it that because they've bottled it over the seasons, it has had a psychological or mental toll on the players themselves?
Arsenal has actually been very terrible in the last 2 seasons, especially this season. It applies to all the clubs. Manchester City are not at their best. This is the City that could go on an 11-game winning streak. They don't have it this season. Talking about last season, Arsenal, comparatively to the previous seasons, couldn't amass the same points. You get it? So Arsenal have been on the decline. I think that the other clubs have also been on a very drastic decline, and it's put Arsenal up there. Talking about not being able to win it psychologically. Yes, it plays psychologically because that's the team, that's the room, you know. Do away with it at the I'm at Arsenal, so I'm Gabriel Jesus, and then I won 11 trophies at Manchester City, so yes, Arsenal doesn't matter. No, the environment is different, the team is different, the expectations are different. You know, at Manchester City, if they were not winning anything, the pressure on them was not like at Arsenal. And even with this season, just look at Pep Guardiola's poor start to the season. Many were not really too hard on them. But with Arsenal, people expect a lot because of the drought. So I think that it's all about this season. It's not about the psychological makeup of the team. It's about the tactical game plan being deployed by Arteta and the technical team. It actually didn't help, and he's failing to see it because he thinks that when he played exciting football and conceded and scored, he couldn't win the title. So now it's about defenses winning him the title. So he should just get the better of his defense and then he will win. But that is also not helping him there. So I think it's more of about game plan. I think now when you watch Arsenal games, you see Declan Rice battered. He's virtually exhausted. He's not running. He's not tackling like previous, you know, or even when the season started, or even last season. All because he's battered, and Arteta is failing to realize that even in Carabao Cup games, even in FA Cup games, I should give Rice a rest. I should change in for Norgard to get in. So he hasn't actually managed his squad well, the game plan well, and even in game, it hasn't been helpful. Anyone who watched the game yesterday, guys, Arsenal's best creative spark was a Bereti Eze. And even when he was coming in strong into the game and trying to find spaces in between City's team was when Arteta took him off. I can't say that is psychological on the team. He just gave the game away. So it's it's more of the manager, it's more of the coach, it's more of the technical team, it's more of the game plan as now deployed, rather than the mental fortitude of the team. If you listen to the interviews of the players, you clearly sense the belief in there that, oh yes, we can do it, we will do it. It's not like previous years when players and even coach were hesitant that they could do it. Now there is that belief, but the point is delivering on the pitch with the right, game plan, with the right tactics, with the right to get the right results. It's the problem now, and nobody can tell me that does not, behove on the manager.
Carrick, Michael Carrick, you bring victory. Michael Carrick, you are the hope of life. Michael Carrick, oh, Michael Carrick, you, Michael